Have you ever stopped to listen, truly listen, to what you say to yourself all day long? Those quiet whispers, those unseen dialogues within your mind, are they feeding you life or draining it from you? What if I told you that your entire world is only the outpicturing of those inner conversations? Welcome, my friends. Today, we journey deep into the unseen workshop of creation, your own mind. This is not a lesson of wishful thinking, but of divine law, the truth that your mental diet, the steady stream of thoughts and inner conversations, is the very architect of your destiny. Many years ago, I found myself in a moment of quiet rebellion. My outer world was not reflecting what I desired. I had spoken my affirmations, I had imagined my success, and yet nothing moved. Then one evening, as I sat in stillness, I became aware of my own inner voice. It was not speaking of success, it was murmuring of doubt, complaint, and fear. And then it struck me. I had been keeping the letter of the law, but denying its spirit. For the true mental diet is not a single thought of hope followed by a flood of contradiction. It is the disciplined, loving attention to one's inner conversations, the constant awareness that what I whisper to myself becomes the law of my world. You may believe that thoughts are fleeting, harmless shadows passing through the mind, but I tell you this: every thought is a seed, and the soil of your consciousness never refuses to bring forth what you have planted. The world you see around you, the circumstances you call your life, the people who play their parts before you, all are but the harvest of yesterday's inner conversation. Your mental diet is not an idle thing. It is the invisible hand that molds your tomorrow. Observe the thoughts that you allow to dwell within you. Notice how easily you entertain doubt, how readily you nurse resentment, how quietly you expect disappointment. These are not casual visitors. They are tenants, and they pay their rent in kind. The moment you grant them lodging, they begin to construct circumstances that echo their own nature. A thought of lack cannot produce abundance. A thought of fear cannot produce peace. The mind is a faithful servant. It creates after its own kind, and the kind is determined by what you feed it. Every moment of the day, you are dining upon the thoughts you choose. Just as the body is built from the food you consume, your character and experience are formed from the thoughts you entertain. If you constantly feast upon worry, you will produce anxiety in your world. If you nourish yourself with gratitude and confidence, you will build a life of ease and beauty. This is not philosophy alone, it is law, unchanging, impartial, and absolute. When you truly grasp this, you begin to take responsibility for the contents of your own mind. You no longer allow idle, undirected thinking to roam freely. You become deliberate, choosing only those ideas that are in harmony with the person you desire to be. For what you continually think upon, you become. The mental diet is therefore not a punishment or restriction. It is a sacred discipline, a spiritual hygiene of the mind. Consider for a moment that everything in your world was once invisible. The chair upon which you sit, the building that shelters you, even the words you now hear, all were first ideas. They existed first as thought, and thought gave them form. The same process continues endlessly in your personal world. The images and words you repeat to yourself inwardly are creative acts, and they must externalize according to their nature. It is the habit of the mind that determines destiny. A single passing thought may not have power, but the repeated dwelling upon an idea, that is creation. Repetition is the rhythm of the universe. The planets move in ordered cycles. The seasons return in faithful sequence, and man's consciousness likewise reproduces what it rehearses. Therefore, your mental diet is not a matter of a few positive affirmations, but the sustained inner tone of your thinking. You cannot plant weeds and expect roses. You cannot indulge in daily criticism and expect harmony. If you wish to change your outer world, you must first change your inner language. Speak inwardly with faith, and the world will respond in kind. Speak inwardly with doubt, and the world will confirm your fears. For the inner voice is the only true cause, and the outer world is nothing but its echo. You may say, but I cannot control every thought. Indeed, control is not suppression, it is selection. You need not fight the negative idea, you simply turn away from it. Just as one who changes a radio station refuses to listen to discord, so too must you tune your attention to that which uplifts, nourishes, and strengthens. When you find yourself indulging in criticism, replace it with compassion. When you catch yourself rehearsing failure, speak softly of success. Do not argue with your mind. Gently redirect it. That is the art of mental diet. This practice demands vigilance, for the mind, like a garden, will grow what you neglect as surely as what you plant. If you do not sow truth and beauty, the winds of the world will bring seeds of fear and limitation. Yet the moment you decide to watch over your thoughts as a gardener watches over his flowers, the transformation begins. In time, the fragrance of your new mental diet will attract to you experiences of like nature. You will meet people who reflect your new inner tone. Opportunities will appear that match your state of confidence. Peace will replace turmoil. Do not wait for circumstances to change before you change your thought. That is to invert the law. The outer cannot move until the inner does. Begin now in the secrecy of your own mind to think only of that which you desire to experience. Live inwardly in the feeling of your wish fulfilled. As you persist, the unseen world moves to clothe your assumption in fact. Understand this well: you are always creating. Whether you are aware of it or not, the thoughts that dominate your consciousness are shaping your life this very moment. Therefore, become the deliberate author of your own story. Refuse to dine upon thoughts of fear, doubt, and failure. Feed your mind with ideas of love, success, and joy. As surely as day follows night, your world will mirror the quality of your inner nourishment. So let your mental diet be one of truth, faith, and divine imagination. Let every inner word be a seed of blessing. Let no idle or bitter thought find shelter in you. For when the table of your mind is filled with noble fare, the banquet of your life will overflow with abundance. Remember always, your destiny is not written by circumstance but by consciousness. The thoughts you entertain today are the realities you shall meet tomorrow. Guard them well, for they are the architects of your world. You speak within yourself far more than you speak aloud, and yet it is this silent conversation, repeated again and again, that determines the very shape of your life. Your outer words may charm the world, but it is the inner voice that instructs it. The hidden dialogue of your mind is the truest form of prayer, for it reveals what you truly believe. Every inner sentence, whether whispered in love or muttered in fear, is a command issued to the unseen powers of creation. You need not kneel or raise your eyes to heaven, for the altar of prayer is always within, and the sacrifice offered there is the tone of your inner speech. Observe yourself for a single day, and you will discover that you are constantly engaged in conversation. When you imagine meeting another, when you replay old events or rehearse future ones, you are speaking. You respond to others in silence, correcting them, defending yourself, explaining, judging, justifying. This unseen talk becomes the fabric of your world, for what you say within is far more potent than what you declare aloud. The universe is not moved by the words of your lips, but by the conviction behind your inner voice. What you inwardly affirm, it accepts as fact and proceeds to express. The great error of many is to believe that prayer begins when they bow the head and ends when they open their eyes. But true prayer is continuous. It is the unbroken conversation of the mind with itself. It is the story you tell when you are alone, the emotional tone you carry when no one is watching. If that inner voice is filled with complaint, then complaint becomes your harvest. If it is filled with praise, praise will be returned unto you multiplied. The unseen listener of your heart records every word and gives it form in due season. To educate yourself in the art of inner speech is to take control of destiny. Begin to notice the dialogues that fill your day. When you think of a friend, do you bless them or do you find fault? When you anticipate an event, do you expect success or prepare for disappointment? Whatever picture you accompany with feeling becomes a living seed. If your inner speech is woven with fear, it must produce after its kind. If it is sustained in faith, it must yield abundance. The law is exact, and it cares not who you are. It only mirrors the pattern you hold within. When you understand this, you realize that every problem is a conversation gone astray. The quarrel with a loved one, the failure of a plan, the loss of peace, all can be traced to the unseen words you have spoken against yourself. For each time you say inwardly, "I cannot," "it is too hard," or "they do not care," You issue decrees that the outer world obediently fulfills. Yet the same power that produced sorrow can produce joy once you learn to direct it. Change your conversation, and the world must change its reply. To master inner speech, begin with awareness. Listen as an observer listens. When a thought of limitation arises, do not fight it, simply replace it. Speak gently within yourself, all things are possible to me, and rest in that assurance. When you are tempted to argue with appearances, remind yourself that the world is only echoing what you have long been saying inside. Be patient, for the echo lingers, but it cannot resist a new command. Consistency of inner speech will dissolve the old forms and bring forth the new. Think of your mind as a stage and your inner voice as the actor forever performing upon it. What script does it follow? Who writes its lines? The truth is, you do. Each morning you hand that actor a new script through your assumptions, your beliefs, and your emotional tone. If the dialogue is filled with doubt, the play will be tragic. If the dialogue is filled with assurance, the play becomes divine. You need not force or struggle. You need only choose your lines with care and rehearse them until they feel natural. Eventually, your inner speech will flow effortlessly in harmony with your desire. You will find that as your conversation changes, so too do the people around you. Those who once criticized may now praise. Those who resisted may now cooperate. Do not be deceived into believing they have changed. You have changed, and they are the mirrors of your inner drama. When your inward speech becomes one of harmony, the outer chorus sings the same note. This is why it is said that prayer is answered the moment it is felt. The outer manifestation simply takes the time required for the echo to return. Let your inner conversations be consistent with your highest ideals. Speak to yourself as one who is already blessed. If you desire love, speak inwardly as the beloved. If you desire wealth, think and feel as one who possesses abundance. Your subconscious mind accepts these inner dialogues as reality and constructs conditions to support them. There is no deception here, only law. What you sustain inwardly must express outwardly. Therefore, if your life is filled with discord, change the words you are whispering in secret, and harmony will return. This practice is not easy, for habit is strong and the mind has long been undisciplined. But with persistence, a new language forms within you. Soon, without effort, you will find yourself speaking inwardly in faith, in love, in expectation of good. Then your world will begin to reflect these qualities, as naturally as a mirror reflects a face. The transformation will appear miraculous to others, but you will know it as the simple outworking of inner speech aligned with truth. Remember always, every word spoken within is a seed cast upon the field of consciousness. Each grows according to its nature, and nothing is withheld. Guard your speech, then not with fear but with reverence. Let the words of your heart be blessings, and your world will bloom accordingly, for the quiet dialogue you hold with yourself is the most creative force in existence. It is the prayer without ceasing, the voice that shapes eternity into form. When you understand this, you will know that your life is not a result of chance, but the reflection of the conversations you have been having in the secret place of your mind. The imagination is the workshop of eternity. All that you see, all that you experience, and all that you call real began first as an image, a vision, a conception held within consciousness. There is nothing in this vast universe that did not first pass through the gate of imagination. The world is not a collection of independent objects moving by chance. It is the living projection of mind in motion. Every mountain, every melody, every invention, every love story, and every sorrow was once invisible, alive only in thought. To understand this is to hold the key to creation itself, for imagination creates reality. It is easy to believe that the outer world is the cause and the inner the effect. Yet, the reverse is true. The inner world of imagination is the cause, and the outer world is its reflection. Like the shadow that follows form, the visible universe obediently echoes the unseen patterns impressed upon consciousness. The mind, filled with fear, produces a world of obstacles. The mind filled with faith produces a world of miracles. You need only look to your own life to see this law at work. The things you habitually imagine, whether in love or in dread, have found their way into form, often so naturally that you have forgotten the moment you first conceived them. Creation does not begin with action, it begins with assumption. You must first imagine yourself to be the person you desire to be. Feel the reality of that state until it possesses you completely. The outer world, though it may seem slow, must eventually conform to the image impressed upon it by your sustained imagination. When you dwell in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are not pretending, you are creating. You are planting seeds in the soil of eternity, and these seeds, being alive, must bring forth after their kind. Just as surely as the acorn contains the oak, your assumption contains the fulfillment. Most people imagine without awareness. They allow fear, doubt, and memory to paint their inner landscapes, and then they wonder why their world mirrors confusion and limitation. To live creatively, one must take command of imagination, for it is always creating, whether consciously or unconsciously. You cannot stop imagining, but you can choose what to imagine. The disciplined imagination is the only difference between the dreamer who wanders and the dreamer who creates. To imagine deliberately is to accept responsibility for your reality, for nothing comes to you but that which you have first called to yourself through the doorway of thought. Every emotion, every conviction is a creative act. When you imagine with feeling, the invisible substance of life takes form. The universe does not respond to idle daydreams. It responds to the living vibration of belief. If you wish to change your world, you must first change the pictures that dominate your mind. The vision you hold in imagination determines the events that unfold before you. You cannot imagine failure and live success. You cannot picture lack and dwell in abundance. The outer world cannot rise higher than the inner standard set by your imagination. There is no such thing as an inactive imagination. It is always at work building and shaping according to your mental focus. When you rehearse scenes of harmony, you create harmony. When you dwell on misfortune, you recreate it. This law is impersonal and exact, responding not to pleas but to patterns. You cannot deceive the creative power within you, for it knows not words, it knows only feeling. Therefore, when you imagine, feel as though it were true, for in that moment of feeling, creation begins. What you inwardly accept as real, the universe must express. This principle is not confined to grand ambitions. It governs every detail of life. The way you imagine your relationships, your work, your health, all follow the pattern of your dominant conception. A man who sees himself as unloved will meet rejection even in kindness. Another who imagines himself blessed will find blessing in every circumstance. The difference lies not in the world, but in the image held within. The mirror cannot reflect what is not before it. Likewise, the world cannot reveal what the mind has not conceived. Many seek change through effort, through endless action and struggle, but action without imagination is labor without life. The only true action is inner action, the movement of mind into the feeling of fulfillment. Once this movement occurs, outer events arrange themselves in perfect harmony. Life becomes effortless because you are no longer fighting the shadow, you are shaping the substance. The outer world does not resist you, it simply waits for your instruction, which you give through imagination. Begin, then, to imagine only what you desire to experience. When you rise in the morning, clothe yourself inwardly with the mood of your fulfilled desire. Walk as though you already possess that which you seek. Speak inwardly as one who knows his wish is accomplished. The world will seem at first unchanged, but continue in faith. Just as a seed takes time to emerge from the soil, so too will your imagined reality unfold in its appointed hour. The law cannot fail, for it is the nature of consciousness to externalize what it conceives. Do not think of imagination as fantasy, it is the substance of reality itself. The great artists, inventors, and sages have all known this truth. They lived more vividly in their inner vision than in the world of appearances, and that vision became their legacy. You too are called to this same creative mastery. You are not a spectator in the play of life, but the author of its scenes. The pen is your imagination, and the ink is your belief. Write wisely, for the world will perform exactly what you compose. Remember, imagination is not limited by the senses. It is the power that transcends time and circumstance. When you imagine with conviction, you enter the unseen dimension where all possibilities already exist. There, your assumption becomes fact, and the outer world simply unfolds to reveal what has always been true within you. In this sacred act, you join the eternal process of creation, shaping reality not by force but by vision. The imagination, disciplined and sustained, is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between what is dreamed and what is lived. Guard it, nurture it, and use it wisely, for it is the very power by which worlds are made. The law of assumption is the unchanging principle that governs every manifestation in life. It is the unseen order that transforms imagination into experience, desire into fact, and belief into being. To assume is to accept something as true, to dwell in the feeling of its reality before there is any evidence to support it. This is the secret rhythm of creation. You do not receive what you wish for, nor even what you work for, but what you assume to be true. The assumption you hold with conviction becomes the condition you will meet. The world is a mirror, faithfully reflecting your inner assumptions. Every circumstance, every person, every event that enters your life is a reflection of what you have accepted as real in the depths of your own consciousness. There is no exception to this law. If you assume lack, you must encounter lack. If you assume abundance, you must encounter abundance. The outer world does not question your assumption. It simply obeys it. To understand this is to grasp the creative power that has been working through you from the beginning. You have always been assuming. The only difference is whether you have done so consciously or unconsciously. Assumption is not mere daydreaming. It is not the idle repetition of words or the hopeful waiting for a miracle. It is the deliberate occupation of a state of consciousness. When you assume, you take upon yourself the inner atmosphere of your fulfilled desire. You feel as though it were already so. You think from it, not toward it. You no longer ask, when will it happen? For in imagination it has already happened. The assumption is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, and once you cross it, reality must follow your lead. Consider how easily you assume limitation. When you are told that something cannot be done, you accept it without question. When you experience disappointment, you assume failure will repeat itself. These assumptions seem innocent, but they are powerful decrees. The law knows no difference between good or bad. It simply brings forth what you believe to be true. The great task, therefore, is to reverse the habit, to assume only that which uplifts, strengthens, and fulfills. You must train yourself to live inwardly as the person you desire to be, regardless of appearances. When the senses contradict your vision, that is the very moment when assumption must remain firm. The outer world will always echo the old belief until the new one is fully established. To waver in the interval is to delay the harvest. The farmer does not dig up his seed to check its progress. He trusts the unseen growth beneath the soil. So too must you trust your assumption. Hold it steadily, quietly, and with certainty, and soon it will crystallize into fact. This is not superstition but law. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the seed, and faith is the atmosphere in which it grows. It is not enough to affirm that you will be wealthy, loved, or successful. You must inwardly assume that you already are. The distinction is subtle but vital. The declaration, I will be, places your desire in the future, always beyond your reach. The declaration, I am, claims it now, and in that claiming lies the power of creation. You must feel the reality of your desire so completely that you lose the sense of wanting. The moment of true assumption is one of peace, for you have entered the state of possession. There is no striving, no effort, only awareness. Every assumption, when persisted in, becomes a fact. The outer world cannot resist the inner conviction. You may not know the path by which it will unfold, but unfold it must. The law of assumption arranges all means necessary for its fulfillment. People, circumstances, and events will move in perfect order, though you may not see their connection until the end. This is why you are told to live in the end, to dwell mentally in the result rather than the process. The process is the world's concern. Your only concern is the state you occupy in consciousness. You will notice that the moment you assume a new state, life responds differently. The same people may speak new words to you, opportunities may appear where there were none, and difficulties may dissolve as if they were never real. This is not coincidence. It is the inevitable response of reality to your change in consciousness. When you assume the feeling of being healthy, every cell of your body listens. When you assume the feeling of being loved, every interaction adjusts to mirror that truth. The world outside bends to the inner pattern you have chosen to sustain. To live by this law is to live creatively and deliberately. You become the conscious director of your experience rather than its victim. You no longer react to circumstances, you create them. When others complain of misfortune, you quietly adjust your inner state and see fortune unfold. When obstacles appear, you remind yourself that they are only the residue of old assumptions, already fading. There is no need to struggle, for struggle implies doubt. The power is not in effort but in awareness. The art of assumption requires discipline, for the mind is restless and easily drawn back to appearances. But with practice, you will find it natural to think from your desired state rather than toward it. Begin each day by entering, in imagination, the mood of fulfillment. Feel the gratitude of accomplishment before it arrives. Speak within yourself as one who already possesses the thing desired. As you persist, the distinction between imagination and reality dissolves, and you awaken to the truth that they are one and the same. The law of assumption reveals that creation is finished. Every possible state of being already exists within the infinite imagination, awaiting your selection. When you assume a state, you are not creating it from nothing. You are simply occupying it, making it alive in your consciousness. From that moment, it begins to externalize itself in time and space. The delay between assumption and manifestation is but the interval required for the invisible to condense into visibility. Therefore, assume boldly. Walk in the feeling of your dream realized. Refuse to entertain thoughts that deny its reality. The more natural your assumption feels, the sooner it will appear. You need not know how. It is enough to know that it will. The law of assumption is the law of life itself. Whatever you accept as true within you will one day greet you without. The key lies not in effort, but in faith sustained by imagination. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to live as the creator, shaping reality from within and witnessing it bloom before your eyes. There is no greater thief of life than the quiet voice of negative self-talk. It begins softly, whispering through the corridors of the mind, "You are not enough. You cannot succeed. Things never work out for you." And without question you agree. You accept those words as your own, and by that acceptance they become law. The most dangerous words are not those spoken by others, but those repeated silently within. They shape character, influence emotion, and create circumstance. The mind is a fertile field, and the thoughts you plant in it grow with exact precision. To stop negative self-talk is not an act of denial, but an act of spiritual correction. It is the decision to no longer feed the soil of consciousness with weeds. Every word you speak within is a decree. It does not matter whether it is uttered aloud or whispered in the secret chambers of thought. It is heard and obeyed by the creative power that shapes your world. When you condemn yourself, the universe simply fulfills that sentence. When you affirm your worth, it fulfills that too. The law is impartial. It has no preference, no morality. It mirrors the tone of your inner speech. Therefore, to allow yourself to indulge in criticism, resentment, or fear is to write tragedy into the script of your life. To transform your destiny, you must first transform the words you speak in silence. Negative self-talk is subtle. It hides beneath humor, disguises itself as humility, and often pretends to be caution. You may say, "I don't want to expect too much," thinking you are wise, when in truth you are declaring limitation. You may say, "That's just how life is," believing you are practical, when you are, in fact, confirming a belief in struggle. Every time you affirm these falsehoods, you reinforce the very conditions you wish to escape. The mind cannot contradict its own instruction. If you tell it that you are weak, it will find ways to prove you right. If you tell it you are strong, it will open channels of strength you never knew existed. To stop negative self-talk, you must first hear it. Most people are so accustomed to their own inner criticism that they no longer recognize it. The voice of limitation has become background noise, like the hum of a distant machine. It comments on everything: your appearance, your abilities, your relationships, your future. It tells you what cannot be done, what will go wrong, and why you are not qualified. and because it speaks in your own tone, you mistake it for reason. But that voice is not reason, it is memory. It is the echo of past beliefs, of fears learned and rehearsed until they sound like truth. Awareness is the first act of freedom. Begin to listen to your inner dialogue as though it belonged to another. When you hear words of defeat, pause. Do not argue, simply refuse to repeat them. Replace them with words that reflect the reality you wish to experience. If the voice says, I can't, respond gently, I can and I am. If it says, it's too late, answer, everything unfolds at the perfect time. You need not shout, for power is not in volume but in conviction. The more you practice this redirection, the more natural it becomes. The old voice will lose its authority, and a new tone will rise, calm, confident, and creative. Negative self-talk thrives on emotion. It draws its strength from fear, guilt, and doubt. The moment you feel those emotions stirring, you are being invited to speak wrongly of yourself. Instead of sinking into them, use them as signals. When fear arises, declare silently, I am safe and guided. When guilt whispers, say, I am forgiven and renewed. When doubt speaks, affirm, all things are possible to me. These are not empty phrases. They are commands issued to consciousness. Each time you speak them, you shift the direction of your inner current, and life begins to move in harmony with your new declaration. Understand that self-talk is the seed of experience. Every condition in your life is the matured fruit of what you have long been saying within. The poor man is not poor because he lacks resources, but because he constantly affirms lack. The lonely soul is not unloved because others refuse affection, but because he continually speaks loneliness into being. The mind listens to its own words and builds accordingly. Change the conversation, and the structure of your life rearranges itself. What you repeat, you believe. What you believe, you experience. To end negative self-talk is to practice mental cleanliness. You would not allow your body to go unwashed, nor should you allow your mind to remain cluttered with harmful words. Each morning, cleanse it with affirmations of truth. Speak inwardly of your worth, your purpose, and your potential. Say quietly, I am valuable, I am capable, I am the creator of my experience. Do not wait until you feel these things to say them until you feel them. The feeling will follow the repetition, just as dawn follows night. There will be times when the old voice returns, attempting to reclaim its throne. Do not be discouraged. Habits of thought, like habits of the body, take time to change. Be patient, for every act of correction weakens the power of the negative pattern. Each time you refuse to condemn yourself, you strengthen the voice of truth within. Eventually, the old self-talk fades into silence, and a new language emerges, the language of faith. When your inner speech becomes aligned with your highest vision, you begin to live in harmony with the law of life. You discover that what once required effort now unfolds effortlessly. Opportunities appear without struggle. People respond with kindness. The world seems to bend toward your good. This is not magic, it is alignment. You have ceased speaking against yourself, and the universe can now speak for you. So guard your words, especially the ones no one hears, for those are the builders of destiny. Every time you speak of yourself inwardly, you are shaping the mold through which life will flow. Speak with love, and love will return. Speak with confidence, and doors will open. Speak with gratitude, and abundance will come. Let no harsh word rise within you, for even the smallest murmur can sow discord in the garden of your soul. The silence of your mind is sacred ground. Let it echo only with truth, for that truth will one day stand before you in living form. To practice mental fasting is to feed the mind only on that which sustains the soul. Just as the body weakens when filled with impurities, so too does the spirit grow faint when nourished by complaint, criticism, and fear. A true fast is not merely the abstaining from food, it is the refusal to dwell upon anything that denies the perfection of life. Most people believe their troubles arise from circumstance, yet all circumstance is born of thought. The world is only the mirror reflecting the feast of the mind. If you wish to change what you see, you must first change what you consume inwardly. Every complaint is a declaration of bondage. Each time you murmur against life, you fasten yourself more firmly to the very condition you dislike. You cannot rise while you speak as though you are fallen. You cannot be free while your inner speech rehearses chains. To break the habit of complaint is to release yourself from the pattern that sustains misery. The mind that continually complains becomes skilled in finding reasons to do so. The law of consciousness is impartial. It reproduces what it receives. The more you dwell on injustice, failure, or misfortune, the more evidence of these you will find, for the world will always echo the tone of your inner speech. Mental fasting begins when you decide to stop feeding on negativity. You turn away from gossip, fear, and resentment as you would from spoiled food. You refuse to entertain unlovely thoughts, no matter how justified they may appear. You do not fight them, for what you resist persists. Instead, you starve them of attention. Without your consent, they fade away, for thought, like a flame, dies when it is not supplied with fuel. To fast mentally is to withdraw attention from all that diminishes and direct it toward all that uplifts. It is the art of inner substitution, the deliberate replacement of darkness with light. This fast is not passive. It demands discipline and presence of mind. The world will tempt you at every turn to react, to criticize, to judge, to defend. Yet you must learn to stand still within, to meet each disturbance with calm awareness. When someone offends you, the instinct is to justify yourself, to repeat inwardly the words of hurt. But remember, each repetition fixes the emotion deeper into consciousness. Instead of indulging in inner arguments, bless the one who wronged you. Say silently, "You are free, and I am free," and move on in peace. In that moment, you break the cycle of reaction, and the power of the offense dissolves. Gratitude is the great companion of mental fasting. When you give thanks in place of complaint, you transform the vibration of your being. Gratitude is not denial, it is recognition of the good already present. Even in difficulty, there is something to praise, a lesson, a strength, a hidden blessing waiting to emerge. When you train yourself to look for that good, you feed the mind with nourishment that multiplies. The more you thank, the more you find to thank for, until life itself becomes a banquet of abundance. The discipline of mental fasting extends beyond words. It governs images, emotions, and expectations. If you wish to dwell in peace, you cannot feast on scenes of fear and violence, whether in memory or imagination. You cannot dwell on the failures of yesterday and hope to experience triumph today. You must choose your inner diet as carefully as you would choose food for a delicate body. Feed upon beauty, harmony, and joy, and your life will express these qualities. Let no idle picture of failure or sorrow linger in your mind, for it is from such images that form takes root. There are those who believe that to fast mentally is to live blindly, to ignore the reality of hardship. But true fasting is not ignorance. It is mastery. It is the understanding that reality is molded from within, and that to change the effect, you must cease sustaining its cause. The complainer believes he speaks the truth. He does not realize that he is creating it. The moment he stops describing his misfortune, the law of life begins to rearrange his world. Silence concerning evil is the death of evil. To refrain from complaint is to withdraw the breath that keeps it alive. Begin your fast today. For one day, refuse to speak negatively of yourself or others. When the mind seeks to wander toward criticism, gently redirect it. Speak instead of what is good, noble, and true. When you feel the urge to retell a story of injury or injustice, pause and bless the situation. Say within yourself, "This too shall serve my growth," and let it go. You will be astonished at the lightness that fills your being. Each act of restraint is an act of power. Each silent blessing is a seed of peace planted in the garden of consciousness. Persist in this practice, and you will find that life begins to mirror your new inner diet. People who once irritated you will seem changed, though it is you who have changed. Situations that once provoked anger will now awaken compassion. Opportunities that seemed distant will begin to appear naturally. You have not forced the world, you have purified your response to it. The clean mind creates a clean world. Mental fasting is not the renunciation of life, but the sanctification of it. It teaches you to see the divine order beneath every appearance. When you no longer feed on fear and complaint, your inner sight clears, and you perceive beauty where once you saw disorder. You begin to understand that every event is neutral until you give it meaning. The fast cleanses perception. It allows truth to reveal itself without distortion. To live this way is to live in continual renewal. Each day becomes a spiritual cleansing, each thought an offering. You move through life lightly, unburdened by resentment or regret. The mind grows quiet, the heart steady, and the soul radiant. Nothing external can disturb the peace you have established within. You have learned to fast from all that denies life, and to feast upon all that affirms it. In this sacred practice, you discover the secret of transformation, that to change your world, you need only change your diet of thought. When you no longer feed on complaint, but on thanksgiving, the universe responds in kind, serving you joy for sorrow, peace for conflict, and abundance for lack. Consciousness is the eternal cause, the root from which all effects spring. Every event that unfolds in life, every person you meet, every circumstance that greets you, each is the mirror of your inner state. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing arrives without invitation. You are always meeting yourself, though you may call it the world. To say that consciousness creates reality is not poetic exaggeration. It is the fundamental law of existence. What you are aware of being, you become. What you accept as true within yourself, you inevitably express without. The outer world is only the shadow cast by the light of your inner awareness. You live in a world of motion and form, but beneath that world lies the still, invisible cause, consciousness itself. It is not an external power shaping you from without, but your own inner awareness shaping everything from within. You think you live in a universe of things, yet you dwell in a universe of states, states of consciousness. When you occupy the state of peace, all that you meet will mirror peace. When you inhabit the state of fear, life responds with scenes of danger. This is not punishment, it is precision. The law cannot err. The outer world does not judge, it simply reflects. Most people believe that their thoughts are small, that their feelings are private and inconsequential. Yet the truth is that thought and feeling are the very building blocks of experience. Every mood you entertain, every attitude you persist in, becomes an order impressed upon the unseen substance of life. Consciousness is creative, and it creates according to the tone it holds. If you continually feel overlooked, ignored, or unworthy, life will produce evidence to support that assumption. If you cultivate the feeling of value and grace, you will find yourself surrounded by appreciation and opportunity. The world has no choice. It must echo your inner vibration. This is why the wise do not try to change things directly. They know that the rearrangement of matter follows the rearrangement of mind. When you attempt to fix the outer without altering the inner, you are like one who trims the branches while ignoring the root. The same fruits will return again and again, for their cause remains untouched. The true transformation begins when you cease trying to manipulate appearances and instead change your consciousness of being. You do not fight darkness, you turn on the light. The light is your awareness, what you choose to know as true of yourself. It is essential to understand that consciousness is not limited to thought alone. It includes feeling, imagination, and belief. You may repeat words of affirmation endlessly, but if they contradict the feeling you secretly hold, they will bear no fruit. The creative power of consciousness responds to emotion, not to empty speech. When your words and your feelings align, the creative act is complete. The emotion behind your assumption is the fire that animates it, the living essence that gives it form. Therefore, to change your life, change not only what you think, but how you feel about yourself and your world. This principle operates in every sphere of existence. A nation is only the collective consciousness of its people. A family is the shared awareness of its members. An individual's health, relationships, and success are each shaped by the state he occupies inwardly. To raise one's consciousness is to lift the entire pattern of experience. Nothing external needs to be conquered. The battlefield is within, and victory comes through inner alignment. When you hold steady to an elevated state of consciousness, the world reorganizes itself to confirm it. There are those who question how consciousness alone could create such tangible reality. Yet look at the world around you. Every object you see was first an idea, a conception in some mind. The building you stand in was first an image in imagination. The music you hear was once silent inspiration. The clothes you wear were first sketches and thoughts. Everything material is born from the immaterial realm of mind. The same process that governs art and invention governs every facet of life. You are imagining your days into being, moment by moment, though you may not yet realize it. To live consciously is to accept responsibility for this power. It means no longer blaming people, fate, or circumstance for what you experience. It means knowing that if discord appears, it is an echo of a state once entertained. You may not remember when you planted the seed, but you can know that you did. Do not condemn yourself for past creations, simply change the state that produced them. Consciousness is infinite mercy. It allows renewal at every moment. The instant you shift your awareness, the future begins to reshape itself in accordance with the new cause. When you awaken to this understanding, you become the deliberate architect of your life. You cease to drift from one condition to another and begin to choose your inner state with intention. If you wish to experience joy, dwell in the feeling of joy now. If you wish to attract kindness, become kind within. The law requires no effort, no strain, only faith in the unseen. The outer picture cannot help but rearrange itself to match the inner pattern. Consciousness is not delayed, it is instant. Only time separates the invisible seed from the visible fruit. Every day you are given the sacred choice of what to be conscious of being. You can select anxiety or confidence, scarcity or abundance, despair or hope. The selection is made not by circumstance but by decision. When you choose a new awareness and persist in it, even when appearances contradict, you are exercising the highest form of faith. That faith is the bridge between thought and experience. The senses may mock you, telling you nothing has changed, but remain unmoved. The outer world is a slow echo, and it must conform in time. As you learn to live from this understanding, you discover that consciousness is not confined to the limits of the body or the boundaries of time. You can imagine yourself anywhere, and there, in imagination, you exist. You can feel a future event as if it were present, and that feeling draws it into being. The secret of mastery lies in this quiet art, to dwell in the desired state so completely that the senses yield to the truth of the unseen. In that stillness, creation is accomplished. The world will later confirm what was long true within you. The discovery that consciousness creates reality is the awakening of divine responsibility. No longer can you live as a victim of chance. Every thought, every feeling, every inner word is a brushstroke on the canvas of life. You are the artist, the dreamer, and the dream itself. The world around you is but the reflection of what you have dared to assume within. When you understand this, you see that to change your world is to change your awareness. The outer form is merely the shadow, the substance is within. To lift consciousness is to lift life itself, and in that awakening you find the power that has always been yours, the power to create. A disciplined mind is the foundation of all true freedom. Without discipline, thought wanders like an untended stream, carving channels of habit and emotion that carry life wherever they will. Yet the moment you take hold of the mind and direct it with intention, you awaken to your rightful dominion. The disciplined mind is not rigid, it is focused, steady, and obedient to your chosen vision. It does not bow to circumstance nor yield to fear. It becomes the servant of purpose rather than the slave of reaction. To guard your mental diet daily is to exercise the highest form of mastery, the mastery of self. Every man and woman is governed by their own inner talking. Thought, like breath, is constant, and without awareness it moves according to the patterns of the past. The undisciplined mind repeats what it has heard, remembers what it has suffered, and anticipates what it fears. It is reactive, echoing the noise of the world. But the disciplined mind is selective. It listens inwardly to truth rather than outwardly to appearance. It feeds upon ideas that strengthen and elevate, and it rejects those that diminish. Such discipline is not achieved through suppression, but through vigilance and love. You must become watchful of what you permit to dwell in consciousness, for the guest you entertain today becomes the master of your house tomorrow. Discipline begins with attention. What you attend to, you amplify. The mind is magnetic, drawing unto itself more of whatever it rests upon. When you constantly think of failure, the world seems to conspire against you. When you dwell upon beauty, kindness, and success, these qualities begin to surround you. Attention is the currency of creation. Each moment you spend it either on truth or illusion, abundance or lack, joy or sorrow. The disciplined mind knows this, and therefore spends its attention wisely. It refuses to squander thought on complaint, envy, or fear, for it understands that every thought is a seed destined to bear fruit. To live this way requires persistence, for the senses will tempt you to believe in appearances. The mind will want to react, to defend itself, to justify its pain. But you must train it as one trains a child, gently yet firmly returning it to its purpose. When an unlovely thought arises, do not scold yourself, simply redirect your attention. Replace the image of failure with one of accomplishment. Replace worry with gratitude, resentment with forgiveness. Every redirection weakens the old pattern and strengthens the new. Eventually, the mind learns its rightful course, and peace becomes its natural rhythm. True discipline is born not of force, but of conviction. You must know why you practice it. You must feel within yourself the truth that consciousness alone shapes experience. Once you understand that every thought contributes to your destiny, you cannot allow yourself to think carelessly. The idle thought of today is the circumstance of tomorrow. Therefore, discipline becomes not a burden but a joy, for you are shaping the clay of life with deliberate hands. You come to cherish every moment of awareness, knowing that within it lies the seed of future joy or sorrow. The disciplined mind does not live in denial of feeling. It acknowledges emotion but does not surrender to it. When anger arises, it observes it without acting from it. When fear appears, it meets it with understanding. It knows that emotion is energy in motion and that it can be transformed by the focus of attention. To discipline the mind is to harness this energy and channel it toward creation rather than destruction. Instead of allowing feelings to dictate thought, thought becomes the master that redeems feeling. This is how peace is maintained even amid storm. Many believe discipline means restraint from joy, but the opposite is true. It is the pathway to the deepest joy, for it frees you from the tyranny of reaction. When your mind is untrained, you are at the mercy of every impression. A word can offend you, a delay can frustrate you, a memory can paralyze you. But when your mind is disciplined, you remain unmoved. You can look upon chaos and still feel serenity, for you know that nothing external has power over you. The disciplined mind is the quiet center around which the world revolves. It acts rather than reacts. It creates rather than complains. It chooses rather than drifts. Such mastery cannot be gained in a single moment. It must be cultivated through daily practice. Begin each day with stillness. Sit quietly and choose the mood you will carry. Decide what you will think and feel before the world decides for you. During the day, guard that inner state as a treasure. When outer noise tries to invade, withdraw inwardly to the place of peace. Speak to yourself words of faith and strength. Remember that your attention is sacred. It is the lifeblood of creation. As you persist, the mind will obey, for the mind, like a faithful servant, becomes what it is trained to be. The reward of discipline is liberty. You are no longer driven by impulse or enslaved by circumstance. You move through life with clarity and poise, seeing cause and effect as one. You understand that no one can injure you unless you consent inwardly. You discover that power is not in control of others, but in control of yourself. The disciplined mind does not seek to dominate, but to harmonize. It uses its strength to bring order, beauty, and love into expression. Wherever such a mind moves, peace follows, for it radiates stability born of understanding. To guard the mind daily is to live consciously. Each morning you dress your body with care. Do the same for your thoughts. Clothe your mind in confidence, gratitude, and compassion. Let no unworthy idea touch it, for once admitted, it leaves its imprint. Keep watch as a gardener keeps watch over a tender seedling. Water your thoughts with praise, nourish them with faith, and pull out the weeds of doubt the moment they appear. This is the true spiritual discipline, not austerity, but awareness. When the mind is disciplined, it becomes a perfect instrument for creation. It is no longer distracted or divided. It serves as a clear channel through which the unseen becomes visible. In such a mind, inspiration flows easily, intuition awakens, and the unseen laws of life cooperate in harmony. The disciplined mind is both sword and sanctuary. It cuts away illusion and provides refuge from confusion. Through it, the soul finds expression and the outer world finds order. Therefore, let every day be an exercise in mindfulness and mastery. Do not let a single thought pass unexamined, for each is a thread in the tapestry of your life. Discipline is not confinement, it is release. The release from doubt, fear, and chaos into the spacious freedom of deliberate creation. The moment you learn to govern your inner world, the outer world must yield in obedience. The disciplined mind is a liberated soul, and in its quiet strength lies the secret of all fulfillment. All that has been spoken returns to a single unshakable truth. The world you experience is the outpicturing of your inner state. Every thought, every feeling, every quiet word spoken within is a seed sown in the fertile soil of consciousness, destined to bloom in form. You are never at the mercy of circumstances, for circumstances are only mirrors, reflecting the quality of your inner conversation. The mind, when undisciplined, scatters its power across fear and doubt, but when mastered, it becomes the servant of divine imagination. To live by these principles is to live deliberately. You learn to guard your mental diet, to fast from complaint, to speak to yourself with reverence, and to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You cease to fight shadows and instead tend to the light within. The imagination becomes your sanctuary, assumption your bridge, faith your sustenance. In this sacred understanding, life reveals itself not as a struggle to be endured, but as a masterpiece to be painted from within. Every keynote, every teaching, every law points to one eternal invitation, to awaken. Awaken to the truth that consciousness is the only reality. Awaken to the realization that creation is finished, and you are forever selecting from infinite possibilities. Awaken to the power that has been yours since the beginning, the power to think, to feel, to imagine, and thereby to create. When you choose your thoughts with love, when you speak inwardly with faith, when you dwell in gratitude and persist in noble assumption, you align yourself with the divine pattern of life. Then all that seemed impossible begins to unfold naturally, for the outer world cannot resist the command of a mind aligned with truth. So let this be the remembrance that guides every step. Your destiny is not written by the world, it is written by your awareness of being. Choose this day whom you will serve, fear or faith, complaint or gratitude, doubt or vision. For as you choose within, so shall it be without. The key to every door lies not in effort, but in consciousness. Guard it well, nurture it with love, and you will see heaven revealed on earth, not as something to reach, but as something you have always been.